This Youth Day, the South African Coalition for Child Access Rights will be formally launched. Its program of activities aimed at cause solidarity, public education, and consistent advocacy. To tell us more, we have Shabnam Palesa Mohamed. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Shabnam, and shukran for joining me.
Wa alaikum salam, Sister Maryam, and shukran for the opportunity.
All right, so first of all, what is the motivation behind the launch of SACAR, this Youth Day?
Thank you for the question. Well, the motivation is the mental health of our children. That's the primary objective of ASACA that we'll be focusing on. And we recognize and realize consistently that there's nothing more important than the mental health of our children. And an often underlooked area related to the mental health of children is child access, which is the right of the child to have access to both parents. Now, many of us may take that for granted if we come from an environment or a home where our parents are still together. But there are many children in our country, in fact, a growing number of children. And we find that especially post the lockdown, parents have separated or divorced, leaving children in a situation where they may not have access to one of their parents. And this, of course, causes an enormous amount of trauma to children, from depression and anxiety to issues focusing at school and affecting their education, to violent tendencies. A lot of the bullying issues that we see in our schools are a direct result of children who don't know how to deal with this conflict between their parents and not being allowed to spend time with and see and stay over with their parent. And of course, suicidal tendencies. That's another issue that our children go through, often following through on those thoughts of suicide because they don't have access to a parent. They feel like a hostage in their situation. And this whole syndrome and phenomenon is called alienation. And child alienation is what THECA focuses on, because we believe that the mental health of children is essential for the mental health and overall well-being of the child, of families, of community, and society.
And one thing that I've noticed is that children's mental health is always overlooked. It's probably looked at as something like them just growing up, and don't worry about it. They will get over it. They're just being a teenager. They're just being a toddler. They're gonna get over it. So don't worry, relax. But perhaps we need to delve deeper into this and look for the signs and symptoms. So what should we look at? When it comes to the children's mental health, what are we supposed to be aware of?
Well, I think when it comes to children who are in the middle of a separation between parents or divorce, there are certain very clear signs that one can notice. And that can be, again, anxiety and depression. So that scale where it's very quietened down, they become reserved and withdrawn. They find it difficult to interact with people. Towards the middle, where it's, again, issues in school, difficulty to engage with peers, with family members, with friends, with their education, with their teacher, etc. And you start to see this decline in their results. And it's very difficult for them to talk about what's happening at home because of this hostage situation that they're put in by the alienating parent who says to them, well, you're not allowed to have a relationship with the other parent, or your parent doesn't love you, or you will just listen to me, and I've done all this for you and your parent hasn't done anything, so therefore you don't deserve to have a right to the other parent. And at the extreme end of the scale, it's the suicidal thoughts, it's violence, it's acting out, it's running away from home. These are the kind of experiences that children are actually going through. And so the alienating parent, what they tend to do is this campaign of denigration against the alienated or the victimized or targeted parent, and often their families as well, to make sure that they maintain this sense of control over the child. And in dealing with adult survivors of child alienation who've managed to extricate themselves from this hostage situation, realized what was going on. In conversations with them, when they talk about a seated sense of trauma, not being able to build relationships with people because of trust issues, that having been alienated, not knowing how to connect with people because they've had half of their identity practically erased from their lives. So naturally, there's an imbalance in them psychosocially. And so what we have is adults walking around with trauma wounds and nobody connecting the pieces and saying, actually, it's related to child alienation. This is what's going on in our country. It's a hidden trauma, it's a hidden tragedy. And so as SACA, we want to highlight what our children are going through and how we can help them. But we also aim to connect organizations in our country who work in this very specialized area. And there's a number of organizations doing that for many, many years. It's quite an established movement in South Africa. It's an international movement as well. So we aim to build that solidarity and work together with solidarity, public education, and with consistent advocacy.
Right. So SACA, is it the first of its kind in South Africa, or are there others? And if so, what makes SACA unique?
So as far as we understand, it's the first coalition that's focused on child access rights. And the idea was to bring together these different organizations that work in this area. Some of them work, for children's rights. Some of them will focus on mothers' rights or fathers' rights. But for SACA, we put the child in the center of what is a child abuse crisis. Alienation, make no mistake, is a severe form of psychological and emotional abuse. And what comes with it often is physical abuse, verbal abuse, intimidation, economic abuse. So it really is insidious and looked over, because one may think, well, your parent has a right to treat you that way. Look at what they're doing for you. They're putting a roof over your head. So if they say you can't have your other parent in your life, you just have to listen to that. And people think of it as it's just a family issue. It's just a domestic or a custody issue. It's not. It's actually a child abuse issue. And that's what we want to frame it as. It's about child abuse. It's about the mental health of the child. We bring together all of these different organizations with their different experiences and skills to have a united front that can advocate for the rights of children to have access to their parents. And we know without a doubt that once this begins to happen for children in our country, and it's a long struggle, we've been at it for many, many years, but if we consolidate our skills and our experiences and take those to the stakeholders who make decisions, whether that's psychologists or social workers, members of the legal profession, the Office of the Family Advocate, etc., we know we're going to make headway because we have this wealth of experience. It's not easy. There's a lot of obstacles involved in the system. That includes the alienating parents who often suffer from psychological or mental issues themselves and may not realize it and need therapy, to a lot of gender bias in the system that says one or other parent has a right because of their gender to be the primary custodial parent instead of co-parenting, which is what we advocate for. We believe that parents have equal rights to the child, and in the interest of the mental health of the child, parents need to co-parent 50-50. That needs to be the starting point of a discussion related to access, and then we take it from there. And of course, there's also corruption in the system where people manipulate the conflict in a family situation to profit from it by extending the conflict and making the situation worse. So it's complex, it's multifaceted, but at the center is our philosophy of mental health of the child is in the best interest of the child, and co-parenting and equitable access is what we need to drive towards.
Definitely something that people will benefit from. Shabnam, do stay with us. We're going to take a quick break, but we will continue thereafter.
235 Matthews Maiwa Road in Durban. Head on over for the Taste with Kick. We offer something scrumptious for everyone in the family. Wraps, chicken tikka, burgers, tender grills, mocktails, milkshakes, and so much more. Corporate and events catering available. Visit our social media pages for more info or call 031 209 0119. Kiki's, the Taste with Kick.
Osman's Taj Mahal Spice and Rice. For over 80 years, Osman's Taj Mahal have been perfecting the art of the perfect blend of spices, pure, aromatic, and well-seasoned. Spices to tantalize your taste buds. From creative cuisines to gastronomical gourmet goodies. From exotic odors to traditional dishes, Osman's Taj Mahal have remained synonymous with quality spices and condiments. Taj Mahal rice, beans, and lentils. Try our range of chili bite mixes, rose and ilachi syrup, our quick and easy biryani pack, and our traditional range of spice blends. Osman's Taj Mahal, there is no substitute for quality.
The combined dam levels for the Port Elizabeth area is at a shocking 11%. 1 July is day zero for the Kucha Dam, resulting in dry taps for hundreds of families in the surrounding areas of Port Elizabeth. Help us strategize. Support our water drive in the Eastern Cape region of South Africa. Donate your lilla towards the erecting of JoJo tanks in impoverished areas and for the vehicles to deliver water in areas of need. Donate to the Al-Fida Foundation. Visit our website at www.alfida.co.za or contact us at 041 484 1288.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Welcome back. It is 11:17. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Maryam, Mkwanda. And still with me is Shabnam Palesa Mohamed talking to us about SACA, the South Africa Coalition for Child Access Rights. Shabnam, shukran for staying on the line. Now, launching on Youth Day, what can we expect from the launch?
So we're very excited to be launching on Youth Day because of the significance of the mental health trauma experienced by the youth of 1976, that in many ways is still being experienced by the youth in our country, who are targeted by many issues, including poverty, including lack of access to services. And one of those services they lack access to is mental health support. And so therefore, it's very significant for us to be able to launch SACA on Youth Day, which is, of course, tomorrow, 5 p.m. tomorrow. And the program of activities will, of course, include an introduction to SACA. What is the vision? What are the objectives? What are the strategies that we're going to be using moving forward in a program of activities? And that's going to be followed by presentations and interviews. So we'll start off with two organizations that are working in this area of child access rights for a number of years. They're part of the coalition. And those two individuals will be Solomon Mondlane and Kirsten Brahman, talking about challenges and successes in this area of advocacy and their personal experiences as well in child access rights. And of course, our keynote speaker is going to be Professor Sats Cooper, who's no stranger to Salam Media. And he, of course, is renowned in the area of psychology, president of the Pan-African Psychology Union, a number of roles, leadership roles in social science, in academia, in community work, in activism, of course, Black consciousness activist. And so he's going to be talking about the impact of co-parenting versus the impact of child alienation from a psychological perspective, centering the child's mental health. What is going on with our children? What is the situation in South Africa? How is this impacting on their mental health? And what needs to change so that we center children's mental health and make sure that parents understand they need to co-parent. And that, we also feel a sense of sympathy for the alienated parent, Maryam, who is experiencing a severe form of domestic violence. So domestic violence also covers mental and psychological abuse. The parent who is alienated is experiencing a severe form of domestic violence. So we're walking around with very traumatized children, adults, and families. But of course, SACA aims to resolve these issues constructively. And after Professor Sats Cooper's interview, I'll be interviewing him. We'll take some comments and suggestions from hopefully our attendees and our audience, their thoughts on the ways forward. And finally, talk about our program of activities for the year, which will include at least monthly events that brings in individuals affected by child alienation, organizations working in this area, and professionals working in this area, from psychologists and social workers to legal professionals, to community activists that understand what is going on or want to learn more about what child alienation is, because they finally realize this is what's going on with the children in our country.
Mm-hmm. Now, going back to the aims and objectives, what is the situation like in South Africa? Are children protected when it comes to alienation?
Unfortunately not. Most people don't have an understanding of what alienation is. They know something is going on, but they don't know that it actually has a name, that it has signs and symptoms, that it has a severe psychological effect on children and adults and extended families. And that, there are organizations that can assist them, what their rights are in terms of approaching the systemic stakeholders, from psychologists, like I mentioned, and social workers to the legal system. And so most people don't know exactly what's going on. And they stumble upon organizations working in this area, sometimes quite by accident in their desperation for help. And that's when we tend to work with them and try and give them advice. And we've been working in this area for so many years. So many excellent organizations and individuals who've been working really hard, often without the resources to assist people in trauma. And so the situation in South Africa is really bad. Our legislation, in fact, doesn't speak about co-parenting. It doesn't speak about mediation enough. So mediation is a process, it's a legal process, but it means two parties sit down, sometimes separately in caucus, to work out a parenting plan that's in the best interest of the child. And of course, doing it this way in a non-confrontational, non-adversarial way means you don't have to go to court. But of course, there are people who are very litigious. They want to fight in court, and often they're supported by lawyers who, profit from that, and other stakeholders, other professionals who also benefit from this extended conflict. And then there are presiding officers who are becoming, so magistrates and judges who are becoming more aware of what child alienation is, and the fact that they need to protect the mental health of the child by making sure that parents co-parent. But there isn't a sanction for often enough for the alienating parent. For example, if there's a court order and this alienating parent decides, well, I don't care about the court order, I'm not going to allow access because I see this child as property. In fact, that's how they see them. There isn't often enough a sanction. So one could hold this person in contempt of court and order them to either do to abide by the court order, or to do community service, or be fined, or heaven forbid, jail time, in fact. But what we're dealing with is child abuse, and so therefore all of the stakeholders need to realize this is what we're dealing with, and children desperately need rescuing. So Maryam's situation is terrible for children in our country related to this form of child abuse. But this is what SACA is going to be focusing on, raising awareness through education, solidarity, and consistent advocacy with the stakeholders nationally and internationally.
All right. So, and earlier you mentioned that SACA will be hosting monthly events. And what else can people expect after the launch tomorrow? Because, when we get excited when we hear of a new coalition or an organization launching, and then a few months down the line, basically, they're gone down as well. They haven't done any work. They haven't helped anyone. So, we obviously don't want the same for SACA. We do want to see the change for the sake of our children.
So we have a planned program of activities that includes monthly events, bringing together, like I mentioned, the different stakeholders, from affected parents or targeted parents and their families, to organizations working in this area, some of them working for many, many years and have a wealth of skills and experience, and some who are fairly new and bring a fresh approach to how we should be addressing child alienation in our country, to, of course, professionals who work in this area. There are a number of psychologists, social workers, ethical lawyers, of course, as well, who will bring to the table mediators. Very important. We believe in family law. It should never go to court. Has to be mediated because it's less confrontational and it's less stressful for the child as well as the parents, and less costly as well, and less time consuming as well. So we'll bring them all into conversation, some of them separately in groups, but also an interdisciplinary approach where we bring together all of these stakeholders to talk about what is really going on. We also plan to have weekly conversations with targeted parents to talk about their experiences as a form of therapy for them. Very often they're bottling it inside, trying to cope at work, doesn't know how their child is, has not seen their child in days, weeks, months, or years, can't function at work, and nobody understands what this parent is actually going through. We'll also be talking to adult survivors of child alienation, some of them internationally, about what they really went through at the hands of a parent who was alienating them from one half of themselves, essentially. And we plan to work with youth organizations for them to build the tools to know how to peer-to-peer counsel when one of their peers is going through child alienation. So we are working with youth groups and organizations as well that will be able to have first access to each other, to be able to say to the peer, what you're going through is a form of abuse. It's called child alienation. These are the signs and symptoms. And this is how you can actually help yourself, educate yourself, and empower yourself these are the organizations you can reach out to. And of course, we want one of those to be the South African Coalition for Child Access Rights.
All right. So, where can people get more information, and how can they be part of the launch tomorrow?
So to join the launch tomorrow, 5 p.m. tomorrow, it's going to be an online virtual launch on Facebook. So look for SACCAR, South African Coalition for Child Access Rights. It's a Facebook group. We've launched it fairly recently, but feel free to send a membership request, join the group, start interacting, talk about your experiences. You'll find people that want to actually help you understand what's going on, and give you advice as best we can, and change this narrative for children. So the event is going to be broadcast on the SACCAR group on Facebook, SACCAR, and people can join, support, and participate. And of course, if people want more information about the movement, we've just launched a website. So that's www.childalienationsa.co.za. So childalienationsa.co.za. You'll find out more information about our organization and our program of activities. And of course, we're very humbled and proud to be partnered by Transformative Health Justice, or THJ, which is a health advocacy group in South Africa that's focused on physical and mental health issues. And of course, child alienation in SACCA is their primary mental health issue for children campaigns that they've partnered with SACCA on.
All right. Sounds like it's going to be an interesting one, and definitely something to follow up once SACCA has been officially launched. Shabnam, shukran so much for your time and for unpacking that with us, and good luck.
Shukran for supporting the mental health of children and SACCA. Shukran to Salam Media. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Shabnam, Palesa, Mohamed taking us through what is going to be taking place during the launch of SACCA, the South African Coalition for Child Access Rights. It will be officially launched tomorrow at 5 p.m. on Youth Day, tomorrow marking Youth Day in South Africa, the 16th of June. And if you'd like some more information, you can follow SACCA on Facebook. It's SACCAR on their Facebook, and you can also go to their website, www.childalienation.sa.co.za. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media with Maryam, Mkwanda. We will be right back.